Hello everyone, it's Ben from Grappling Insider. Today I am joined by a guy who is deeply connected in the BJJ community. He is an ADCC judge, an ADCC commentator, also a longtime jiu-jitsu black belt, coach to some of the top competitors in the world. And he's here today to preview the ADCC East Coast Trials with me, Jay Regalbuto. Jay, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, Ben, appreciate you having me, man. Excited to be on.
Yeah, cool. So before we are going to jump like kind of right into the nitty gritty of this, but before we do, kind of tell people like, what is your, I know I just kind of gave you a little intro, but what is your connection to ADCC and jiu-jitsu in general? Why are you so knowledgeable about the sport?
Yeah, so for ADCC in general, I am the head judge for North and South America. So I train all the new judges and referees and just help coordinate, for day of. Like when it comes to the trials this weekend, though, I'll actually jump back on a table and be an actual judge and not just help coordinate stuff. But I've been involved, like I commentated 2016 East Coast Trials, 2018 East Coast Trials. I commentated and I coached Nicky Rod in that one. That's where he took third. And then 2019 West Coast Trials, I had flown out and I was cornering Amanda Leve, who won, Nicky Rod, who won, and then Danielle Kelly was out there too, and she made it to the round of 8. So it was like an incredibly successful trip. I just keep falling in love more and more with the rule set. Then when COVID hit, East Coast Trials are in Jersey, like right near me. And Mo Jassim, the head organizer for ADCC over here, was saying, like, I need judges. Like, I might not be able to get people over here from Finland. And I was like, dude, I'm in. Like, I really, really know these rules. So just kind of went through the steps, ended up being a judge for East Coast Trials, was a judge to the Vegas Open, and had the opportunity to judge or commentate for Worlds. So I took the opportunity to commentate Worlds in 2022. Yeah. So I've done like coaching, commentary, and judging in the rule set. So pretty well versed in it.
Yeah, to say the least. And something you brought up there, which is like why I wanted to talk to you, coaching Nicky Rod, like one of the most kind of like historic, I don't know if that's too big of a word, but one of the most well-known like rapid success stories. So you know what it takes to win ADCC, so that's why it's exciting to kind of preview the tournament with you.
For sure. It's a tournament that really shows you. I mean, his brother J Rod went on to win it. You know, there's been plenty of other people who weren't black belts that have won this tournament. This tournament really shows you that if you understand strategy, man, you understand strategy, and you can wrestle, and you know what I mean. You're going to be aggressive. You're going to find your way to people's backs in this rule set, which is ultimately what happens the majority of the time.
For sure. And then last thing I'll say before we get into the divisions is like, on top of not only can you win if you're strategic, but this tournament also produces like champions, right? We have Giancarlo Bodoni and Cade Rotolo, probably the two top performances at ADCC Worlds, both came out of East Coast Trials last year. So, you know, you're going to see the best of the best here. It's exciting.
Yeah. Even Campo had taken second in East Coast, and Bree St. Marie had won it. Now, they weren't for any kind of invite, but that East Coast was wild last year. Well, and we're about to see.
What's up, everyone? Chances are, if you're tuning into this interview, you probably train in jiu-jitsu, whether it's in the gi, no gi, or both. I've been training for about 13 long years now myself, and when it comes to the gear that I like to use, I personally recommend Rev Gear. They have a premium gi that I love. They have an ultralight competition gi. They have grappling shorts. They even have rash guards that are pretty understated in design, but still really sharp looking. High quality gym bags, even backpacks that can hold multiple gis. So basically just like everything you would need for BJJ training. The best part for me personally is that nothing on that site will break the bank. We're not talking $75, $80 rash guards or $250 gis. Everything that Rev Gear offers is super reasonably priced, which personally I love. To make it even sweeter, Rev Gear is offering a 10% discount on every purchase made on revgear.com when you use the promo code INSIDER10 at checkout. That's INSIDER10 for 10% off anything and everything you buy on the site. I will also drop a link in the video description below. Again, I cannot recommend their stuff enough. Everything I have from RevGear fits well, it's solidly made, and in my experience, holds up great in the long run. Again, head over to revgear.com. That's REVGEAR.com. Use the promo code INSIDER10 for 10% off any purchase made and get some quality gear at a phenomenal price. Now, back to the interview.
This one, it's bonkers, man.
Yeah.
Absolute bonkers, this one.
Yeah. And then I'm glad you brought that up too. We're not going to go into the women's divisions just because it's
Yeah,
not
they're
a
not.
qualifying round. Hopefully we come back for West Coast Trials, but I will say like still tune in because right, you said Bree St. Marie was on like in the fight. She won both. She won East Coast Trials
Yeah,
last
she
year.
won
You're
East
still going to see
Coast
the
and West
best.
Coast.
You're
Yeah,
still going to see the absolute best women. I think Tammy
yeah,
Musumeci's entered. Like
yeah. Tammy's in it.
worth watching
Yeah, there could be Tammy, Jasmine, Rocha. Yeah, there's Aaron Harp. So there's some really good women in it.
for sure. With that said, let's get in. We'll just start at 66. Um, Packed 66, 77, and 88 are all like bananas crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just going to name some names and I'm going to give you, or you can give me kind of your thoughts. I think the three big guys that everybody's looking at are Keith Krikorian, Johnny Grippo, Ethan Krellinston. Keith and Ethan, obviously, like having won trials multiple times, or like, Keith got second, what, three times?
3 times. Yeah.
I have to assume those are kind of the three main guys that people are looking at. And there's obviously a ton of other names, the Corbet brothers, Richard Alarcon, ADCC vet, John Calistine, EBI champion. And then we can talk about other dark horses, but those are kind of probably the main people that are the main guys that people are looking at. So kind of what are your thoughts on the division?
For sure. And I think when it comes to things like trials, activity is a big thing. Like how active are you staying? Like, listen, you're gonna have to win 8 matches over the course of 2 days. That means you got to win 5 matches on Sunday against just a slew of talented people. And there's a ton of dark horses in these divisions. So I think the people that have been staying active, especially active into where they're in situations where they're doing multiple matches in a day, whether it be bracket style, quintet style, whatever it may be, that they're getting more matches to get that feel, because this is an intense 6 minutes. Um, uh, how Keith, and listen, I may sound incredibly biased towards Keith. He's a good friend of mine, and but the way he looked last night against an ADCC champion in Diogo Hayes, man, he's got to be going into trials with a lot of confidence on just how he was able to perform from every position. Um, a guy like Grippo, and Ethan, while they might not have been as active as Keith has been, they still have been, staying in the mix. I think those three are the top 3 seeds. Uh, in my opinion, I just feel Keith is the most well-rounded as far as wrestling, top bottom. You know what I mean? Out of those three, but any of those three, that's probably going to be your top 3 seeds right there. You know what I mean? Keith, Ethan, and Grippo. I think that's a no-brainer to be those three. This division, though, had a lot of people who did very well in the opens. Now, granted, opens totally different than the trials. Trials are an entirely different animal. You have 256 people in the division, but people like you named DeAndre Corby, like he hasn't lost in an open yet. Like he's undefeated in opens with a very good skill set for the rule set. And like he's not only winning opens, like he's going out and he won, I think it was the Enigma, which was a very, very tough bracket. ADCC rules, same thing, went through that. Pretty sure he finished everybody. Rule set was kind of irrelevant to him there, but he's a dark horse. You know what I mean? That can upset people. He's and I can't imagine how many matches he's got in over the last 3 or 4 months. So, conditioning isn't going to be a problem. And, that's the one thing with some of these guys that are, a bit more well-known is they've been, they haven't been as active. And in my opinion, Ben, like you're getting these guys like the Dorian Oliveras, dude. This whole thing is just crazy listed with people. Richard Alarcon, Elias Anderson, Siraj Budaram, John Calistine. Again, Dylan Cameron. Dylan Cameron's another guy, dude, who's been doing really, really well in these opens and well conditioned, ready to go. These guys can jump in and take somebody out. Um, and then even a guy like Dorian Oliveras, combat jiu-jitsu champion. He's done incredibly well in these opens. He's a great wrestler. So it gets to an overtime, man. Now you're stuck wrestling this guy. That 66 division. You're probably gonna have to seed out to 32 or more, just because there's that many studs in that division.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. A couple things that you said that I kind of want to touch on. You talk about activity, and you bring up a guy like Dorian Olivares, who's like 17 maybe.
Yeah,
How much does age play? Because you're gonna have to win 8 matches over 2 days to win this division. We just saw Owen Jones win Euro Trials. He's super young. How much does that like youthfulness help you, right? Because Kolabate won this division 2 years ago, so
man, they
it's got
don't
to be
get
something.
tired.
Yeah.
They don't get tired, and that's a real thing, especially when you're talking match 5, match 6, and now it's going deeper and deeper into it. These kids just got gas tanks. I'm pretty sure he just won out in Fargo too. So you're talking, you know what I mean? A kid who can do 10 matches in a day. It's not an issue. And that kind of activity, here's the thing. I really don't think the greatest time to knock the rust off is, your opening round of trials, because what if, you know what I mean? You go past like the people who could be wild cards and stuff like that. And you got Landon Elmore, Andrew DeGraff, Colby Gonzalez, like these other young kids who are 13, 17, that, man, they're coming in to win. You think they're gonna let their first round match like slide through? Nah, man. Like activity, I believe is huge when you're going to these trials, man. Unless you're somebody, we'll get into a few people, man, later on in the heavier weight classes, like a guy like Ardilla, he can step into that weight class and just kind of do what he needs to do to finish everybody. But yeah, I believe activity is very important, especially when you're leading up to something where you have to win 8 times in 2 days.
For sure. I had no idea Dorian Olivares was still wrestling, competing right now at such a high level.
Yeah,
I think he's a clear dark horse in that division, just given like the reasons you're saying, right? And I think that his combat jujitsu tournament win, I believe, was 4 fights.
yeah.
So like he's used to this, obviously. Something else I
Yo, and
want to
that
touch
yo
on.
Ben,
Oh, go
and
ahead.
that's a kid getting slaps thrown at him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he could take that kind of pressure. He ain't gonna break in the 6th minute of a
Yeah.
jujitsu match.
Yeah. I would say kind of J Rod reminiscent, kind of J Rod
Yes.
vibes, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
Something else I want to touch on in this division, you talked about Keith. I talked to him just a couple weeks ago, and he told me something really interesting. And it's kind of, how Keith talks about himself was like, I see myself as just part of the pack. And that's what I'm excited about is like, I'm not the guy to beat. And I was like, well, dude, you got to be like one of the top seeds, right? I guess like, do you see him as part of the pack, or is he like kind of definitely, he's
Yeah, he's
there.
definitely ahead of the pack. Like I said, I think him, Grippo, and Ethan are the people that you got to chase in this division. Like, if you're going to go up against one of them, you're going to have to, you know what I mean? That they're the 3 to knock off. You know what I mean? If you took those 3 out of the division, DeAndre would probably get a good seed here. And you got guys like Cameron Malott too. This division is just so stacked. But if you remove those 3, this division now it's what that is. You know what I mean? Now it's kind of running with the pack of a bunch of really talented young people. But I definitely think Keith, Grippo, and Ethan are just ahead of the pack in everything: experience, well-roundedness. Just
For sure. And Grippo just won no gi pan, so to the point
Yep.
about activity, he's out there, he's doing it for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're not gonna, you don't have to do a hard pick if you don't want on any of these. That's not what we're gonna do. Just kind of talk in general.
Yeah.
Let's go up to 77. Talking about activity, a guy that like I thought was honestly gonna be on the top one or two at ADCC Worlds, a guy who I always like have these crazy high expectations for, but he's just not super active. Nicky Ryan,
Yeah.
obviously like a phenom, one of the best competitors out there, but it's hard to like trust, can he do 8 matches over 2 days? Just a few other guys in this division that I would say stand out or might be that ahead of the pack guys. Oliver Taza won trials a bunch of times, multiple time ADCC vet, also just won Nogi Pans. Chris Wojcik, trials semifinalist last year, recently a trials semifinalist at Euros. Andrew Tackett, John Combs, ADCC Trials champion. Karen Kitchuk, John Blank, Trials champion. Like the list goes on. Those guys that I named up front, though, I think are probably the ones that most people have their eyes on.
Yeah, for sure. They're going to be the top seeds coming out. You even got the nightmare Diego Sanchez in that division too, right? Excited to see him. ADCC vet too, he is. But Nicky Ryan, like he should be the number one seed, right? I like just this is what it should be. Anyone that could probably argue that against him would be Taza, only because of the activity. He is also trials champion. He is also, but Nikki is definitely the one you would favor to win this. But again, when and it's not like he's lost in these matches that he's gone. Like he's done really well. His match at Santiri, like he controlled the whole time, all that. But he's very tired after, you know. And dude, again, you're talking a division with a lot of not only you got a lot of experienced guys, but you know you got a lot of tough matches in here. Even Sam Kilmer. Sam Kilmer is a guy out of Maryland, MMA fighter, but man, he took out Blank. Like he's taken out some really good guys under the rule set because he's a good wrestler. You know, because he has that MMA mentality where you're not going to turn him over and hold him. So you have sleepers in there that, man, you know, they catch a guy like Taza or Nikki in match 3, and maybe they're a little tired. They drag a nothing score out to overtime. Again, now you got to wrestle this guy. Skill wise, like Nicky Ryan should, you would think would run away with this. The only thing for me is does he have the cardio to do it? That's, and you know it's what we've been talking about. I don't know if he's got the cardio to do it, but I mean, and again, this division has like you're saying, the John Combs is Thor, Nick Ronan, John Satava, another trials winner, and Andrew Tackett and Cody Steele. Man, Andrew Tackett in this rule set, man, is a menace. He's a menace. Like to tell him you have 6 minutes, like man, he's gonna go wild on you for 6 minutes. Cody Steele, no different. And now you got Cody that's preparing for MMA, who's going to be even harder to try to hold down, even harder to try to put on his back because now all his focus is being on the top and being that wrestler. So again, this division is absolutely wild. I believe it's Nikki or Taz's division, but again, you have Combs, you have Blank, you have all these other guys, even guys like Mike 14 Demirs. Like he's a very talented dude. Lives in Mexico, but he's a Canadian guy, a TriStar guy, black belt, and incredibly talented. Kieran Kachuk, like you could just run into, you know what I mean? You could get Tackett Kachuk and Kachuk heel hooks Tackett. Like it's a wild division, and you have AJ Agazarm. AJ Agazarm is in the 77 kilogram division. And I'll tell you this, as somebody who has commentated his matches, as somebody who's judged his matches, he knows these rules better than a lot of people, man, and knows how to use them. Knows he gets warnings, like, you know what I mean? Knows that you have warnings to use if it's late in a match. You want to take a little bit of a breather. He knows he gets 2 before he gets penalized. So you have a guy like that who's as crafty veteran as it gets and can still wrestle. You know what I mean? He's still in shape. He's still training. So you got a guy like that in there too that can just disrupt a bunch of people.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about AJ Agazarm, he's a competitor. He knows how to compete and he
Yeah,
knows how to win. That's why he got the invite recently. Like he's a tough match for anybody.
yeah,
Um, Not to dwell too much on Nicky Ryan's cardio here, but like I do think it's interesting. You bring up a great point. Like, is he getting tired? Like, is that an issue? I think his recent match against Rene Souza, we saw a Nicky Ryan who was conservative, super
mhm,
dominant, but conservative. There's two sides of that coin. Maybe that helps him at ADCC because he expends so much energy on just controlling position initially. So who knows how that'll play out? But I think for my money, he's the clear kind of easiest pick.
yeah,
But there's so many, like you named so many people. I think for me, the only other guy that really stands out, who I don't know if he's a dark horse or if people don't want to pick him, is Andrew Tackett. Like you
yeah.
brought him up, the cardio thing is crazy. Another combat jiu-jitsu champion, and we just saw him go. I hope he's not injured. He had a match with PJ Barch last night. It
Yeah.
was absolutely crazy. He had to pull out against Mika, so I hope he's not injured. If he
Yeah.
is fine,
Kid
like
said something, it was like a lower back, but I
okay,
would just hope he was being more precautious than anything, like knowing you have something else coming up and is it worth it? So uh I would be really disappointed if his name got withdrawn from that list.
well, I think
Still a wild one, but Andrew, when you throw Andrew in there, it just makes
he's
everything.
incredible. Well, I
Yeah.
think he's gone from the crazy entertaining kid to like still that, but also like truly world class because we saw him beat PJ Parch last night.
Yeah. Man, I wanted to see the Mika match so bad too. Really wanted to see that.
I mean, maybe we'll see it at ADCC. Maybe he performs
Yeah.
here well here, and we'll see it at ADCC.
Ben, and how young are these? They're so young. He's so young.
Yeah, it's crazy. Only other guy I want to bring up, Chris Wojcik, who is kind of
Yep.
under the radar, West Coast Trials semifinalist last year, and then just I think got third at European Trials, but at 88
At
kilograms,
88, which is
which is
wild.
not his
You could
natural weight
tell,
class.
no, and you could tell it was a different weight class just by, you know what I mean, looking at it. But yeah, he plays really well to this rule set. Really smart dude, makes a lot of really good decisions in match. Yeah, like I said, like he gets Nikki, like what a disruption that could be to that, you know.
Yeah.
And when you look at how many people are in there, again, you're gonna have to bracket like 30 people, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many trials champions we named alone. If you just put in trials
Just
champions
in
and
that
vets,
one,
you've probably got 16 right there, if not more.
right?
So yeah, I am very excited about that division. Next up, though, the division that I think is hardest to pick, and then
Bro.
I think 88 is the best one here. I think everything will deliver, but this is for me the absolute most difficult to pick. Um, J Rod returning, most recent West Coast Trials champion, Elder Cruz, ADCC vet, William Tackett, another Tackett brother who's got to be up there. And then it does. I mean, there's all kinds of other disruptors, if you want to call them that. Achilles Rocha, I think he's high on that list. Jason Rao, like
Yep.
one of the
I
best.
I think the two others on that list that you could put it, like I think top five seeds, the three you said, you got J Rod, William, and Elder, but you got Ryan Aiken who has been tearing it up, and you have Jacob Couch in the division too. You have all five of them without even starting to name, you know what I mean? All the like the Jason Rouse. You have Dan Rinaldi too, Achilles Rocha. Dan Rinaldi. I don't know if a lot of people know about Dan Rinaldi. He did the Nicky Rod before Nicky Rod did it. He was a blue belt, won trials, went on to ADCC, took second his first ADCC, I think fourth is his second ADCC. But he's a really tough dude. And I was really a good wrestler, really excited to see him. But the Yadamarcos, Abe Lamontage, Lamontagne, he's been doing uh, incredible at these opens and has a very good style and understanding of the rule set. Steven Martinez, Devontae Johnson, or wait, no, was Devontae in this?
He's at 99.
He is at 99. Now, you know who is up in this division, Ben? And I was surprised to see it. Majid. Majid Hodge bumped up to 88. And man, Majid, I don't know if you looked at the brackets. I cut back down to 77. This is these guys are huge, man. These are some big 88s too.
Yeah. Yeah, to that end, actually, so Majid, I'm excited to see the t-shirt. He is a big time disruptor.
Yeah.
But talking about size, J-Rod, is he still undersized for the division? Obviously, it's, his gas tank is incredible. Had a
Yeah.
insane match last night against Mika.
Looked amazing.
But that was at
Really.
170, so it makes me wonder how big is he going to be against these guys
I
who
feel
can
like
now
that
weigh in
was
the
the
day
cut.
before.
He's like a walking 85, 88. You know what I mean? Like this is his just natural walk weight. I got to imagine Ryan Aiken is doing a hell of a cut on the way there. Like I'm thinking he's got to think about this a week and a half out. Aiken is a big, strong guy. Got a win over Couch in the Chicago Open. Uh, he's out of Sean Applegate's gym, man, who's a very smart coach, man, and does very well with coaching his guys to this rule set. Uh, that's who I think are the top five, dude. And then you still got Benji Silva, David Garmo. You know what I mean? You have all these other guys again that could totally disrupt this bracket.
For sure. And I think in every division we've brought up the young guy who is why the Andrew Tackett. We talked about Dorian Olivares. I think in this division we're talking about Achilles Rocha, who is
Yes.
as good as they get and has just the gas tank of a teenager. There's no way around it. Moving back to kind of the main guys though, for me, I most look at William Tackett as the guy here, assuming he put on size moving up from 77. But I think he has a game that's like built for this. He can wrestle, leg lock, kind of really do it all, and is a super smart competitor.
Yeah, very smart. Makes very good decisions in match. Yeah, I'll be honest. I would love to see J Rod and William. As much as I would love to see J Rod and Andrew, I think J Rod and William would be just as fun. That's what I mean. You look at just the top five, in my opinion, who would be around the top five seeds: J Rod, Couch, Aiken, Elder Cruz. You know what I mean? Like ADCC vet, absolute monster, great wrestler, and William Tackett, man. Like you could throw one more person in there. You got a hell of a just a little 6-man bracket. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. And just looking at those names, like, I do think a guy like Jacob Couch, or Jason Rowell, even Kyle Chambers, they can all do well, but those top guys are such good wrestlers in this division that I think that's really going to set them apart. The J Rod, Elder, William Tackett, Hunter Colvin, you said, I think can wrestle with all of those guys.
Yeah. And then a guy like Rao thrown in the mix, right? Like imagine he picks a couple people off, and oh man, it's just I'm getting more excited and more excited the more we talk.
Well, there's also like dream matchups. Who's number one matchmaker? Like just looking at these names, imagine Jason Rao against Jacob Couch. Would die to see that. That's an incredible matchup that could be a super fight main event anywhere. So yeah, I mean, Elder Cruz, J Rod, if you want to talk about wrestling going at it, if that happens would be incredible. So
and they hate to concede position, and I like in ADCC that they don't want to concede position, and that's what makes it just so electric, man, is when nobody wants to give up even a single score. It makes it so much more fun.
And I will say this about ADCC, it's a true 3 seconds that you have to control the position. I feel like that might be the standard in IBJJF, but it's, ADCC, you have a true, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert, a true 3 seconds to hold that position. And those guys use every bit of those 3 seconds to fight out a position.
I tell competitors, I say, if you want to be safe, count to 5, because my 3 seconds sitting at a table with a drink in front of me and I'm not competing and your heart's pounding, count higher.
Yeah, for sure. So 88, man, I am pumped. 99, a little bit thinner on like kind of big names, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be fun. I think Devontae Johnson, he feels like the biggest kind of runaway favorite, maybe of the whole tournament of any division. But also like, he's an ADCC vet, but it also with Devontae, I always wonder like, it seems like he gets to the final, or was he a semifinalist at West Coast Trials or finalist? And then we just saw it at Nogi Pans. He lost to, no disrespect to Dante Leon in the finals of the super heavyweight division at Nogi Pans. So I want to see Devontae live up to that, because when he's on, the guy is incredible, and I think has a great game for ADCC.
Yeah, late in brackets, it's like it's harder for him to pull the trigger. You know what I mean? At least that's what it seems in some brackets. Again, against the best in the world. So, I get it. I'll tell you, Paul Ardilla is probably the most accomplished person. Maybe not IBJJF accomplished, but multiple time ADCC trials champion, multiple time vet, really really tough competitor, lawyer too, like a full-time lawyer. But I'll be honest, I feel like this is the division that is most up for grabs. I think that there is not the giant gap between who, like, Ardillo should get the 1 seed here. He is the most, like I said, the most decorated under the rule set here. You got Devontae, you got Elliot Kelly, who's another trials champion, ADCC vet. And then you have some other guys like Kevin Burbrick, who's been incredibly active in the rule set. Daishi Goto, who's ranked #1, in the ADCC Open rankings. He's got wins over Philippe Trovo. He's got win over Burbrick. Joe Dierkeising, bro, he's a monster, man. And again, he's focused on MMA. He's going to have that nose to be on top, hard to turn over kind of thing. And Braylor Grout, Alex Grandy, like there is some people in here. I feel like 99 under 99 is the division where it's more up for grabs than any of them.
I'm into it, and I will say my apologies. I missed Paul Ardilla on my list. That's completely my oversight. I would agree
Oh
with you
yeah,
that he's the guy. Also, like UWW champion, I believe. So that
yeah,
style, like a guy we're about to talk about, John Hansen, that style takedown centric, obviously
yep,
lends itself well to ADCC. And I didn't know that Dirk Heising was getting into MMA. He was another guy I had circled,
yeah.
who's
I
had
feel
plenty
like
of
he's
success
almost all pushed over to MMA. Just for this, I'm sure he'd jump in.
for
Oh,
sure.
dude, Michael Pixley. Totally forgot Pixley too, dude. Pixley's even though I mean, what he might be a purple belt. I don't know. He might even be a blue belt. I don't think it matters. He's a guy that can use his skill set and a good strategy, man, and he can be on top trying to pass these people's guards. You know what I mean? Being able to score. I just this division to me is the one that's wide open.
Interesting. And like I said at the top, it's kind of light on bigger names, but that doesn't mean, there's not plenty of disruptors. Um, a couple other guys I had circled, Adam Bradley, like high level
Yeah,
black belt. I think also moving up in weight from 88. So we'll see how that serves him. Kyle Dawkins, UFC fighter, who's also, I don't
yeah.
know what
I
his
just
rank is
cornered
in
with me
jiu-jitsu.
and Kyle just
Really?
cornered somebody. He's a local guy. Me and Kyle cornered somebody together a couple weeks ago. He's and again there's a tough wrestler that, man, he takes you down, he puts you down, he gets a guard pass. These guys know how to keep you where they want you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, and also like you brought up Michael Pixley. I think he's one of those guys who competes a lot. Correct me if I'm
Oh
wrong,
yeah,
but I think he's
yeah,
out there, will be active, and like coming from the wrestling background that he has, can do, he can do 10 matches in a day if he needs to. So I
yep,
think he's
easily,
set
yeah.
for this tournament. All right, moving up to the final weight class, heavyweight, 99 or over 99, I should say. Man, this one, we got John Hansen who won it last year. I think a lot of people might be overlooking him, but we also got probably the guy that most people are looking at is Big Dan Manasui, who just got second at European trials. Couple other big names, Damon Ramos, who had an incredible performance at East Coast Trials last year, 2 years ago, I should say. Pat Shigoli, Amir Alam, Mario Gonzalez, really high level wrestler. Who do you like in this division?
So I think Mario Gonzalez would be the one other than Hansen and Big Dan that could do some damage because he plays this rule set very well. He's a very good wrestler, but that's the match everybody needs to see is Big Dan John Hansen. It has to happen. They're both neither of them have lost in the opens. They've John's double golded a few and just won his division in a couple that he just did his division in. And Big Dan, I think, walked away with 10 division in absolute golds in the open, but they had never done any where they were, what you call in the same one together. So they're going to be opposite ends of the bracket. Cannot wait to see that. The other one you had mentioned, oh, Damon Ramos. So, dude, big Damon Ramos fan, super tough dude. I'm gonna tell you in these opens though, man, Big Dan and John really handle them. They're the Big Dan and John Hansen are you know what I mean. They're tough. They're tough to deal with, and I'm excited to see how those two styles go against each other. Hanson's been pulling, traditionally in this. Dan's really good from the top, so I'm very interested to see the strategy and dynamic of the match between those two. And I feel like, listen, anything can happen for sure, but I feel like it's almost inevitable that we're gonna get it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like those are the two top guys. Do you think, I don't want to call it a weak, Big Dan is as good as they come. I don't want to call it a weakness, but losing in the finals at European Trials to Heike Jusila, I believe is if I messed up that name, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Did that kind of did that show a weakness in the armor, I should say, of like maybe down the stretch he's not going to be able to wrestle, and is that something John Hansen could even take advantage of?
So now remember, Big Dan in the finals of the West Coast Trials also had like a 20 seconds left, sat and you know what I mean, took the negative before he was going into overtime. So he's had this happen to him twice. I don't know if it's I don't want to go to overtime. I'm going to try to make something happen real quick, just a slip up and not remembering. But it's happened twice. I have to imagine that he is going to correct that and really not let that happen a third time. You know what I mean? I feel like he's going to make sure that he sees this through to overtime and has an actual plan for overtime. And again, Hansen, multiple time trials champion, ADCC vet. He's won matches in ADCC. Uh, Very good with strategy. And I'll tell you the one thing about John, for a big guy that's a guard player, man, he's got incredible discipline. Understands that he can't let himself get flattened out, that he's got to keep his back off the mat. So, it's what works best for him and how he attacks. Like he's just a very intelligent and disciplined grappler in match. I think that's what makes it so, you know what I mean? Me look forward to that match so much is to see how these guys are going to actually strategize towards each other. Like, I wonder if Big Dan is just going to try to get into a leg. You don't see Hansen in a ton of leg entanglements. You wonder if Big Dan is going to try to exploit that, and attack that way. And in that, I'd love to see, how Hansen either defends that, comes up, And I'll tell you, when you watch those two wrestle up, my goodness, like I would be in their weight class and I would lose weight just to not have to get wrestled up on by those two. When they start coming up from bottom, dude, they're just moving straight through you. Just, yeah, really excited to, I hope it happens. Nothing against all the other plus 99 guys. But, I feel like those two are head and shoulders above everybody in that division. And I think that's the final we're going to see.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with you, and you got me pretty pumped about the that potentially happening. I think
Right.
you bring up a great point. John Hansen is like the ultimate competitor. You never see him make a mistake, right? If he loses, it's because the other guy did something very good, or
Yep.
was just the better guy on that day. You never see John Hansen beat himself. Absolutely not. And if I had to, think about a young guy in this division who has a lot of hype, is Pat Shigoli, who I think has a super bright future. I'm not sure how well his game lends itself to ADCC, but again, like if we're talking about disruptors or guys that could, can he beat John Hansen or Dan Manasui? That's a different story, but he could take out a
Yeah.
top guy for sure.
Listen, if this kid gets on your leg, he understands how to finish it. You know what I mean? Uh, in my opinion, the biggest thing is he just needs to grow and get stronger. It's a lot different being 250 pounds at 17 or however old he is, and being 250 pounds at 35 or 30. You know what I mean? That's a whole different type of strength and uh, once Pat, I believe, gets to where he's 20, you know what I mean, give him a few more years to where that strength is going to mean a bit less. But with that being said, if this kid gets on your leg and you do not know how to defend it, that quick, you know,
Yeah,
he's dude. Listen, if that was my only, if that was my path to victory against a guy like that, man, you better believe it's coming on quick.
for sure. No, yeah. Yeah. But like, yeah, to your point, this is the big man division, a real like capital
Yeah,
M man division here. Um, all right, Jay, man, that was awesome. Hopefully we'll do it again for West Coast Trials.
absolutely, man.
Um, your Instagram handle, Smash Past Jay. I know that's where people can and should follow you. Anything else you want to say before I get you out of here?
No, just you know what? Or when's this coming on? When's this air?
Hopefully this week. I don't have an exact date, but
Oh, okay, okay. If it is, watch the Brazil
yeah,
Open on Flow this weekend. I'll be down in Natal. But other than that, man, tune in. You know what I mean to this trials. If you're anywhere near it, I would come check it out in person. I think the day two is going to be an absolute spectacle. Um, you know, like these brackets are as stacked as they've ever been. It's going to be exciting. Really exciting time for the sport. Really exciting time for the sport.
absolutely agree with all of that. Yeah. ADCC East Coast Trials, October 14th and 15th. Again, Jay, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate you having me.